Hey guys, it's Nick. I'm about to head into Michael's to pick up some wrapping supplies. I'm going to be doing a wrapping tutorial video and giving you guys a little look on how I like to prepare my Christmas gifts. I kind of have an idea in my head of what I want to go for this year. I like to change it up every year on kind of what my theme is. This year I'm feeling red and silver as my colors, and I'm just going to walk in with that inspiration. So let's head inside and see what they have. It's kind of mobbed right now in the parking lot, so hopefully there's still some stuff on the shelves for us to get. All right, so we just finished shopping at Michael's, and now it's time to head on home so we can start wrapping. All right, so now that we're back, we're gonna get started. To start us off, I'm gonna simply just wrap up this box. I've got my red wrapping paper right here, and I'm gonna lay it on top carefully and align it to the grid. I always like to try to get the wrapping paper that has the grid on the back side because it makes it a lot easier when it comes to wrapping, but it's not necessary. You can still measure things out with a ruler if you're really particular. So first, I always like to fold the wrapping paper over my box just to make sure it makes it a little bit past halfway. This is to ensure that once I do cut this out, it will be a big enough piece to actually cover my box. This is where having that grid can be really helpful because you can make sure that you have enough wrapping paper on both sides by just counting the squares like I'm doing here to make sure I have the same amount of wrapping paper to make it around towards the middle on both sides. You want to have a little bit extra so that way you can have some overlap. Next, I'm going to start cutting out my piece, and I want to make sure that there's just enough space that way when it folds up again on the short side that it will be able to make it about a little past halfway up on the box. Once I have it laid out on my cut piece of paper, I like to think about what side's facing down and what side's facing up, because once I fold this all up, the person that opens this is probably going to see this side that is currently facing up first. So if you want them to see what it is right away when they open your gift, usually I have that side facing up. If I want there to be a last second flipping the item around anticipation, then I would have it facing down, so that way it's more of a surprise. Here I'm going to just use a little bit of tape to help secure down the first piece of the wrapping paper, and then I bring up my other side just to make sure that it's going to fit. I also like to fold a hem on the sides to give it a nice clean sturdy edge. This is optional, obviously you don't need to do this, but I like to do it just because it makes the edge a little bit cleaner. Then I will take little pieces of tape, fold them over, and use them to stick the wrapping paper down onto itself and onto the box. Now I like to try to make sure that the tape is right up towards the edge of my wrapping paper, and if I can, also have it help hold down the first piece of wrapping paper by having it overlap with the wrapping paper in the box. Now we're going to turn it around so we can start to fold in the sides. What I like to do is push in from the sides and then fold the top and bottom down to overlap each other. So first I'm going to tuck those sides in and then squeeze and really press into the corners against the box to crease it nice and tight. You'll be able to see it a little bit more clearly when I do the bottom half, but you'll see here, I'm pressing down and really pushing in those corners. Once I have that set, I like to fold down each side and really crease it so I get a nice tight fold on the wrapping paper, top and bottom. And similar to before, I will fold over the edge on the outer flap, so that way it will have a nice solid edge to it. So I will make a small hem here, and always make sure that you are folding the non-split section of the wrapping paper to cover the split section. And with a little bit of folded over tape, that side is complete, and now I just do the same thing on the other side. And that is pretty much it. Once you have the sides folded up, you are done wrapping your box, and you could very well stop here. This is a perfectly acceptable wrapped gift that you could give to someone. But if you're looking to add a little bit more or a little touch of something special, I'll be showing that next with adding some ribbon or bow. So here I selected a silver ribbon because this is the theme I was going for. I usually like to try and pick something that has a nice contrast from the wrapping paper that I'm using. And to measure out, I like to kind of cheat a little bit. What I'll do is make sure I have enough ribbon to go over the long side of the box twice, the short side of the box twice, and also to kind of hang over the edges. And this will give you just enough to kind of wrap it around the box and then tie a knot. After that, you're gonna probably wanna add at least another, I like to say about 18 inches to tie a nice bow at the end, but this can just depend and vary depending on the thickness of your ribbon or how much material you want to use for your bow. So here I start off with the box laying seam side down, and I'm laying the ribbon across the long side of the box. Then I flip the box over with the ribbon and adjust the ribbon so I have equal length coming out from both sides. I then bring them together in the middle, and with a simple twist, I rotate the direction of both ends of the ribbon by 90 degrees. I then flip the box back over and begin to prepare to tie my knot on the top side. I quickly make sure that I am pulling tight and taking up as much tension as I can. This will help to make sure when I go to tie down the ribbon that it will be secure. I then just take the two ends of my ribbon and tuck them both under my starting strand. I will then tie a regular knot, just an over-under knot, to cinch everything tight and help hold it in place. Once that knot is in place, I then like to go back with just a simple bow knot. This is similar to just how you might tie a shoe. You take two loops and you go over, under, pull it through, just like tying a shoelace. You end up with a very simple bow, but I find that it looks pretty nice. Now you could use one of these pre-bought bows. I like to always try to make sure that it matches my ribbon. So when I'm selecting one of these, I'll always compare it to what I'm choosing for my ribbons. That way they look like they blend together. And this can be a great way to just take a simple bow knot. Even if you don't do the shoelace tie knot, you could just stick this right on top of your knot and call it a day. And that could be more than good enough. And once again, you could stop here. This could be your box, and it would be more than adequate in terms of a decoration. However, I will be going a little bit further today. I will not be using the big silver bow. However, I will make use of some of those smaller curly ribbons. So I bought some fake poinsettias, which I will be using as the main decoration item for this box. So usually they come on a wire stem, so I like to cut those and leave about 2 inches of stem left over. The stem then can be tucked into the knot that you've already tied, and you can kind of bend it back around on itself to make a really tight loop slash hook to hold it in place. Now, if you feel like it's not sturdy, you could always go in with hot glue to secure stuff down. I personally try not to use glue when I make these kind of arrangements, just because if someone wants to take it apart and use the decorations again, then they can. Nothing's actually stuck and glued together. Once the flower is in place, I'm going to take some of the leaves that I popped off earlier, and in a similar way, I'm going to hook them under by simply tucking the V shape on this leaf stem and really pressing it in tight and tucking it in around the flower. And once it's in there, it'll kind of get trapped and it should not come out. I'm going to put another one going in the opposite direction so they kind of help hold each other in place. Now, when I'm doing a big decoration like this, I always love to add a little bit of sound or smell or something to kind of elevate it in a different way than just how it looks. So for this specific decoration, I will be using some bells as well as scented pine cones. So here I've laid out just a couple of bells. I picked out 2 pine cones, and I actually also have this garland that I found for real cheap that I can break off to look like some pine branches. I will be assembling these all together to kind of create a nice bit of green that I can stick onto my centerpiece on my package to give it some color contrast besides just having the red and silver. Here I got just some aluminum wire from the craft section. This stuff is great because you can use it to really tie stuff down and hold it together without gluing it, which is always nice because then nothing's permanently attached. And it can look pretty too if you use it as an accent. In this case, I chose the aluminum wire because it has that silver color to match my theme. So here I'm just wrapping the pine cones up with the wire. If the pine cone has a little stem, you can wrap it around that to kind of help hold it even better. I always like to start it off by tucking it in between the little grooves of the pine cone and tucking it into the gaps. This helps to anchor the wire before I start wrapping it around. And once I have each pine cone wrapped, I'm going to string on a couple bells each and then twist up the wire to lock those in place so that way they stay attached firmly to the pine cone. After breaking off a piece of the garland, I will now take the pine cones with that little bit of extra wire on them and use that to twist and attach to my bit of greenery. Once I have them all attached together, it's ready to go to stick onto our present. Next, I'm going to just take a section of aluminum wire and wrap that around the base of the flower real tight. That'll help secure down the flower and the leaves to the bow that I already have on there. I will then use the extra length of that piece of wire to then twist and attach to the branch that we made, and that will secure that in place, and that way everything can be held together. Once again, you could do this all with hot glue, but I like to try to not use glue when I'm making these kinds of things. But of course, once that is secure, you could always stop here as this already looks great. However, I'm going to keep on going because I still think there's a couple more things we could do to really spice this thing up. So I'm actually going to make some use of that curled spiraled ribbon that I had. And so that comes with a little adhesive pad, and you can just peel the back off of that, stick it right underneath everything, and kind of pull it out so that way it's very visible. And I love how that looks. And another great touch that I can add to my box here is I found these little adhesive cards. I found one that even matches my entire theme that I'm going for, so that is perfect. And I'm just going to peel the back off of that and stick it right in this open corner that I left open intentionally to put some kind of card. Now, sometimes I like to attach a card on a string and have it dangling, but this year I'm choosing to stick them directly onto my boxes. Once again, I could stop here, but I'm going to go one step further and still add one more final touch, because the only thing more fun than just unwrapping a box is unwrapping a box that comes with a special treat. So I'm going to take these candy canes and tape them together to make a little heart. And then I'm going to carefully insert them up in this other open corner, tuck them in, and tape them down into place to keep them nice and secure. And that is it. Here is the final product. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did I go too far? Is this too much on here? I honestly don't know. I probably could have stopped 3 steps ago, but I think that the person that gets this is going to really love getting to open this box. Hopefully the gift inside is just as good as the outside. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next vlog. Bye.